yeah!
Hey, welcome to a special episode of Spare from the Past. This is an idea that I kind of had. I thought about doing some of these special episodes where I talk about a thing that's not so much a pay per view, but just something worth talking about. And this is one of those ones I reached out to Jacob and Richie and thought, let's see if anyone's actually will be willing to do the first 4 NXT seasons. And they were, and here we are. So I've got Jacob Cameron here. Jacob, how's it going?
It's going good, Malcolm. Thank you for having me. This is going to be a bit of a weird trip down memory lane because NXT is very precious to me, but this whole era of NXT is just bizarre to look back on, especially where it is now. I feel like you could do an entire spear from the past talking about the evolution of NXT, how it started versus how it's going, but that'll be for another time, I imagine. But I'm thankful to be invited. I'm looking forward to discussing.
And also you've got Richie. Richie, how are you going?
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, it's interesting the effort that has been put into NXT now compared to then. I feel like and NXT then it was interesting. Sometimes I admire what they try to do. Sometimes I'm like, okay, not even. You're just filling up a time slot. Yeah. But they had memorable moments. I don't know if they were good, but we'll get into it.
Yeah. And this is one of those ones where I'm going to see how long this goes. I came in here with a brief plan of this. So we'll see how this goes. But it's one of those ones I figured what I'll do is I'll go down the talk about each of the rookies from each season, and then in order of when they were eliminated in that, and then I've got some extra questions at the end to talk about the season there. But we're starting off on season 1, which is obviously the place to start, and I'll argue this season is probably the best one because I actually did rewatch all of these up to Redemption anyway because I was rewatching it at the time, and it's one of those ones as I actually realized much recently, I think it was when Ray Barry was on an episode commentating on War. It's actually 15 years since it first premiered as well, which I didn't realize. So it's just kind of a coincidence that this episode happened there. But so if season 1 there was 6 episodes before there was even the first elimination. And the first eliminations was kind of weird because they weren't technically, they were eliminated by management apparently. I don't know if there's any kind of thing, but so which means the first 2 I'll just talk about them each one at a time. But the first 2 that got eliminated, we had Michael Tarver, whose pro was Carlito. I'm not too sure what Michael Tarver's doing now.
Probably not much. He was the less good one out of the Nexus.
Yeah.
Carlito was really checked out at this point. It was not long after this he left. So, I feel like he was sort of going, I'm at a point in my career where I've sort of plateaued, so I need to get out of here. I'll do this thing for you guys, but I want to. Yeah, you could tell he's sort of got his heart on into it.
Yeah, but Jacob, what were your thoughts on sort of Michael Tarver, his short one on NXT?
Of all of these reality show seasons of NXT, season 1 is the one I remember the most. But with that being said, I don't remember much about Michael Tarver at all, except for the fact that he wore like one of those masks like everywhere when he wasn't wrestling. He wore one of those, and that's the only thing that I remember him from. And I feel bad that I don't remember much about him other than that. But other than that, that's all I know. And when the Nexus became a thing, he was I think he was fired shortly afterwards.
Yeah,
but I'm not 100% sure on that, so I don't really have a ton to say.
Yeah. with Michael Tarver's just like in the first few sort of episodes, he'd sort of barely competed as it was, and there's like he competed in the first episode. There was like 3 episodes where he's doing nothing, and then sort of came out to face Hefty. He was kind of sort of undefeated as well, but well, no, he never had a win at all until he bet the next person we're going to talk about anyway. But Richie, what were your thoughts on Michael Tarver from what you can remember?
Yeah, like I said, he was probably the least talented of the bunch of the Nexus. He had more of a boxing sort of style. I don't know if he had much wrestling experience out before he got signed. I think it was just. It wouldn't surprise me if he just came from a boxing background and then they discovered him. He's like, oh, you got good look. But yeah, it's like some. I think sometimes, even today, they want to make these athletes that have come outside of wrestling into something, but they forget that not everybody can be like a Bianca Belair or a, um, Kurt Angle. Well, he's not really outside of wrestling, but he's outside of pro wrestling. But yeah, so yeah, for every Kurt Angle, you've got like a Gable Stevenson. Yeah, and then here's another dude. It's just like um, I don't know. I feel like there could be an argument made that they probably gave up on him too early, but yeah, maybe they just saw the writing on the wall there. But yeah, I don't know. Probably a good idea to get eliminated first, to be honest.
I can't say, but even watching is I barely remembered much of Michael Tarver because I do remember watching this season of NXT when it first started, and just rewatching is like, oh yeah, he was a guy that existed on here. But but yeah, I don't really have much more to add about Michael Tarver than there. It's like it was just kind of one of those pairings where it was like Carlito was like, yeah, no, I'm fine having you as pros. Like there wasn't much tension between them either. It was like, and we'll definitely get into actually right now because the next one we're going to talk about is Daniel Bryan, who arguably is probably out of this batch of rookies, Daniel Bryan probably the one that had the most success in WWE.
Yeah, I don't think it's arguable. I think, yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, it's one of those ones like Ray Barrett. I think did have a bit like reasonable amount of success, but Dana Bryan definitely had the most. Like he went like he kind of yeah, and it's one of those ones like it was really interesting that they never gave him a win at all on the NXT. I know like they had this whole sort of thing between him and the Miz where like the Miz just really did not like Daniel Bryan at all. And it's like so it was just one of those pairings, which was admittedly fun to watch for the storyline. Just seeing Miz come out and trying to get Daniel Bryan to this win, and I kind of feel like it was like they did like Daniel Bryan a bit of a disservice by like having him eliminating this sort of bullshit raid. Like, oh yeah, the management says because you says like, oh yeah, I don't want to win. I don't think I'll win. It's like it means you're movie. But I think it was a bullshit raid to get rid of them. But Richie, what were your thoughts on Daniel Bryan?
If the fans didn't get behind Daniel Bryan from the get-go, if he didn't have a name like on the Indies as like this legend of the Indies, we wouldn't be talking about him. He'd be a jobber because that's how WWE saw him. He was a jobber, and that was only because he the outcry when he got fired for choking Justin Rose, and then the outcry again. That's why they pushed him. They tried. They're very hard. Dennis not to push him. It's like no, this is not our guy. And then but that was one of the fans won over. But it's like it was just in that era where Vince was like, no, screw what you like. This is one I don't want. I don't want Daniel Bryan on my TV. So yeah, it's cool that he was able to kind of overcome all that. But yeah, it was sad to watch at some point. But he had a good match with like Jericho, and
Yeah.
I like him the first thing. Right, I think he almost axed himself on the announce table from what I remember. He did it too. Um, but yeah, there's no reason he couldn't like beat Skip Sheffield, which we'll get to. People like that. But yeah, I don't know. I'm glad he was able to sort of rise above this. I mean, again, there's an argument that he didn't need to be on this show. It's like, could have just got called up to the main roster straight away. But yeah. So no, definitely one of my favorites. But yeah, But this show didn't really do me any favors.
Yeah, and this one was like, I really forgot how annoying Michael Cole was in this era with him being the biggest big
Season three. Season 3.
Oh, we'll get there. But it's like, just like his constant complaining about Daniel Bryan there, and even like near the end where it was like this apology to Daniel Bryan is like, honestly, I was kind of half expecting they were going to make a match between Daniel Bryan and Michael Cole at one point, because why not? It's like never happened.
A heel play-by-play guy doesn't work. You can't have a heel.
It gets way worse in later seasons, but we will.
Yeah, season 3.
But Jacob, what are your thoughts about Daniel Bryan?
I mean, I think Richie pretty much covered what I was going to say. I mean, it's Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson, call him whatever you want. I feel like the fans just got behind him just based out of spite almost, because it was like in that long, dark winter where it was like creatively, it was just nothing was going right, it felt like. And so when Daniel Bryan like got to that certain level, we basically just like, push, and we pushed him up the mountain almost to where he would end up going. So it was a bit of a choice to give him a losing streak and to pair him up with Miz. I don't necessarily agree with that, but power of hindsight, it was at least a little bit worth it.
Yeah, I mean, there's some really weird pairings we were going to get to. Is with one being coming up right now. Which means the next
yip, yip, yip. What it do? That's my catchphrase. People at home. Yip, yip, yip. What it do?
Is Skip Sheffield. And yeah, talking about sort of lopsided periods, like to put this character was more of a hillbilly character up with William Regal, who was still in this really royal phase. It's like, this was the weirdest matchups. Like, at least the Miz and Daniel Bryan kind of makes some sense. William Regal and Skip.
You know who you should have put William Regal against? Daniel Bryan. He trained him.
I actually didn't realize that.
That's a good idea.
I mean, honestly, for me, it's like I probably would have maybe put Regal with the other British guy, Brad Barrett, as well. Like, that would have been another one that would have made some sense. But yeah, Skip Sheffield, who well, I want to say he got injured, and then 2 years later he came back as Ryback. Yeah, like and I will give it to Skip Sheffield. Like, his the character is like really annoying. Like, and I actually prefer his when you became Ryback, because like he kind of had more of a personality ish. And yeah, and now he's just on TikTok talking about WWE.
I would say how the mighty have fallen, but I'm just gonna leave that alone.
Yeah, but yeah, Skip Sheffield is just one of those characters which kind of like it annoyed me a little bit. Like his catchphrase and that is busy. I think he kind of overuses his catchphrase in this season. Is like any time he had to talk, like he'll every time they gave him mic, like that was one of the first things he says, like, yeah, we get it, there's your catchphrase. No one tells his catchphrase that many times. And
he stole the catchphrase from Land Before Time.
yeah. But Jacob, what were your thoughts about Skip Sheffield?
I didn't really have much, like Ryback, Skip Sheffield, call him whatever you want. I just kind of nothinged him really. I don't really have a ton to add in particular.
And Richie, anything to add about Skip Sheffield?
I think they brought when he didn't really have much of a main roster run as that character, because I think once he debuted as Nexus, not shortly thereafter he broke his ankle, which took like a long time to heal. Like I think it was like he had complications for a couple of years. That's why they repackaged him as Ryback. Which is I think the Skip Sheffield character had a short shelf life anyway. I couldn't see Skip Sheffield contending for the title, but yeah, at least Ryback had some Ryback definitely had he was making ratings difference at some point. That the people were getting behind him, but yeah, I think a combination of Dirty booking himself into a corner with the shooter CM Punk, him not getting along with people like CM Punk, and then him being his own worst enemy, kind of led to his downfall. This is probably the most infamous moment of his is where he put up a poll saying, "Oh, where do you like to see me next?" And he had an option for retire, and people unanimously said retire. I'm like, why did you even have that as an option? But yeah, look, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if the guy is a lunkhead. If he's just trolling. I don't suspect he'll be back in wrestling. But yeah, look, there was some Ryback things I enjoyed. I liked him when he was a heel for a bit. Pre-show stopper or whatever. I thought it was fun. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think overall I don't think much of Skip Sheffield, Ryan Reeves. You forget too, right? Even prior to this, he'd been in the company for ages. He was on Tough Enough. He was on the Daniel Pewter Tough Enough.
Oh, that's right, he was.
Yeah. So yeah, he was Ryan Reeves on Tough Enough. Yes, so that's his real name. So yeah.
But moving on to another one and to another matchup that time lopsided was with Party Boy Darren Young, as some people like to call him, Black Cena, paired with CM Punk of all people, who's the complete opposite of a Party Boy. But Jacob, what are your thoughts about Darren Young?
I thought of this original season, I think he was one of the ones that I personally thought would have gone farther, because he had a good look. He was decent in the ring. I mean, if the primetime players showed anything, he definitely had at least something. So I'm slightly disappointed he didn't go further than he did. I believe he's still wrestling as Fred Rosser, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
So he's still going, and that's good. But this is one of the weirder ones, because I feel like he should have had more, but just never really did.
Richie, what do you think about Darren Young?
Yeah, I have a sort of similar thoughts here. Once someone on the internet pointed out that he looks like John Cena, I could not unsee it. I was like, "Holy shit, he really does." I thought he had some potential, and I liked Primetime Players as a tag team. I didn't think they, not that you want to exploit it too much, because it shouldn't be a rare thing, but I don't know I didn't think they capitalized that much when he came, it was a big thing when he came out, but it was just it was a big thing, and then they kind of didn't really do much with it. Then they had that stupid the weird ass pairing of Bob Backlund, which I don't know. I don't know what that was supposed to accomplish. Make get Darren Young great again. I was like, well, you've never pushed him as anything great, so I'm not supposed to make great again. And I don't know. I don't think that worked. It sort of had, I think it had go away heat to the fact. It might have worked if he was a heel, but he wasn't. So He's one of those dudes where I don't know how old he is now, but like if WWE gave him another shot, that'd be kind of cool. I do like the guy. So yeah,
he is 41.
okay, maybe I don't know. Well, WWE are looking at signing Jeff Cobb. He's 42, so maybe.
Yeah, no, it's funny when you realise how old some wrestlers are. Because I was actually reading up somewhere. Tommaso Ciampa is actually the same age as me. He's 39. I thought he was older.
Seth Rollins was 39 as well. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Ciampa certainly looks older than he actually is.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know that period of time where he went all grey. You're like, man, you look. How long have you aged?
Yeah, no, but Darren Young, like he was the only one from season 1 to appear in the redemption season. When we get to it, he was paired with Chavo and then JTG at one point. But even though, like, when we get to it, because like the pros kind of stopped turning up eventually in the redemption season. But yeah, Darren Young, like after Skip Sheffield was eliminated, like I could have seen any of these other 5 people winning NXT because I thought they were all really decent. And like I think Darren Young was great, like, and just like having him with CM Punk, like who granted like is the opposite of Darren Young, like it definitely showed like over time, like it showed CM Punk kind of seeing potential in Darren Young, and like so I think just having it change his mind, like CM Punk's mindset on him, I think it was interesting. And yeah, but it's one of those ones like I think he was really good. But moving on to a pairing which actually really made sense on paper, and that's Heath Slater, who was paired with Christian, like and both of them just said like it's one of those. This is one of those pairings that when it was announced, like, oh yeah, this makes a lot of sense. Like Christian is kind of a rocker. Heath Slater is a one-man rock band. He's got kids. But I don't know about if Christian's got kids, but but I think Heath Slater was fun to watch, and even like when he became was paired with Jinder Mahal and Drew McIntyre as 3 and B, I think he was just an entertaining character through and through. It's like I would have loved to see a lot more from Heath Slater. Like, but what are your thoughts about Heath Slater?
Yeah, I think Heath Slater's entertaining. He's one of those dudes who's like, like I think he was never like he's never been like a great wrestler necessarily, but like he's made the most of his position. Like he worked out probably early on that he was going to sort of be a perennial jobber for WWE, and he made the most of it. He was entertaining to the point where it was like, like he got himself over. He's only won in 3MB. Hasn't bounced back and won the WWE title. Maybe still hope. I don't know. But then gets himself gets himself over with tagging with Rhino, which is a odd tag team, but like it works with he's got kids thing, which also carried over to TNA, which he had a decent run into. Yeah. He had a decent run there, also tagging with Rhino. So no, I like Heath. I think he's quite entertaining. I think remember that there was that one segment where he was the only one that went undrafted in the draft. Sitting in an empty room. You know what, guys? But yeah, he was good at the comedy, and I like him I like him quite a bit. And I think this pairing worked.
Yeah. No, it's I'm not too sure what he's doing. Last I could see was he was working in Elizabethtown, Tennessee, on the side the ring championship, or whatever that means. But yeah, he there's not much. I kind of see my bit on Heath Slater already, but there wasn't. I don't have much more to add. But Jacob, what do you have to say about Heath Slater?
I think Richie pretty much covered what I was going to say. I do have a soft spot for Heath Slater. I liked when he was jobbing to all the legends in the road up to Raw 1000. I appreciated that. Slater and Rhino was a lot of fun. So he made the most out of what little he was given. I mean, 3MB did spawn 2 WWE champions, and that's better than some factions in wrestling history. So that is not nothing. So he is definitely a guy who maximized his minutes, and that is something that should be praised.
Next up, we've got a wrestler who I always thought was never really had the personality, but he definitely had the wrestling ability, and that's Justin Gabriel, who was paired with Matt Hardy. And once again, another one of those pairings which was like one of those ones that was actually pretty good on paper and all that. And but Richie, what are your thoughts about Justin Gabriel?
Justin Gabriel's a pretty damn good wrestler. I don't know if it's so much that he has no person. Like, I mean, his personality didn't really shine in NXT. That's right, but like they didn't really. But also when he came to the main roster, they didn't give him much of a gimmick or much of a personality to sort of run with, and so he sort of lost in the shuffle there. Like he was Adam Rose's bunny. So personality. Then he would leave WWE. He was PJ Black, and he had more of a personality there. He actually showed up not that long ago, maybe a year or two ago, doing a couple of matches in as well. I think against like what we know now as Beast Mortis. I think it was Black Taurus at the time. But yeah, I think he also he luckily recovered, but he had a bad like abseiling accident where he lost one of his fingers. But I don't know if they were able to reattach it or not. But yeah, I think he's still around. But yeah, he's definitely he doesn't really look like he did back then. He's got a cool look. I like PJ Black, Justin Gabriel, and they definitely could have done more with him. I think they established that they thought he was boring, and they did nothing to kind of make you perceive that he's anything but boring because they didn't give him a character. So yeah, but he's a really good wrestler.
Oh yeah. No, I just quickly googled him as like, and the main picture comes up as like I had to make sure I went to the right page because he does I can see a resemblance to Joe Hendry.
No, a little.
Yeah, I don't know.
See,
yeah, I can see a resemblance.
A little bit. Yeah.
I believe in PJ Black.
But yeah, no, like Justin Gabriel, I thought he had a few good matches as well, but he was pretty good. And it's about like, I don't really have a lot more to add about him. Like other than I really enjoyed him. But Jake, what are your thoughts about Justin Gabriel?
Out of this main cast, he was the one that I thought was the dark horse. I thought he could have maybe won the thing because I thought he was just great. Like that was the first time I had ever seen someone do a 450, and I thought I just lost my mind. And for a while, when he was in the Nexus, they treated that thing like it was a big deal. And so it is unfortunate that he became Adam Rose's bunny and other things, but Lucha Underground gave him a good run, and that was certainly something. So out of this season 1 cast, outside of maybe Bryan Danielson, he was my favorite.
Yeah. But moving on, we've got David Otunga. That was a really bad Ray Barrett impression, but this is one of those ones where I think David Otunga, like, he had a really good, like, he was really sort of fun to watch. Like, his pairing for Truth was like contentious, to say the least. Like, it was the kind of the reverse of Miz and Daniel Bryan, where David Otunga like really didn't like our truth and down the road. It was like, but yeah, David Otunga, who I think is still married to Jennifer Hudson.
No. They broke up. They had a really bad breakup.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, but he was one of those ones where like he got a lot of good options early on, because I think like he won a battle royale to become the guest host of Raw, and he got a few good opportunities to sort of show off his personality, and I think of all people, I think the Miz took him to a premiere of one of the Marine movies or something like that. But yeah, and R-Truth was just fun to watch as a pro. He's just fun in general, like especially when he's doing time travel storylines in WWE 2K25.
But yeah.
Oh, there's only a brief one, but yeah, but Jacob, what are your thoughts about David Otunga?
He was fine. I mean, for me personally, like, I mean, Otunga always looked like $1,000,000. Like, he just looked impressive. But outside of that, he didn't really do all that much for me. It was a bit of a shame too. 'Cause, like, I just remember he was like Johnny Ace's assistant for a little bit, and then he was a commentator, and he was just terrible at it. So it's a shame because he should have been more, but he just wasn't. It amazes me that he finished second in this.
Yeah. And Richie, what are your thoughts about David Otunga?
I think he's bland. I think they just saw a good look and then wanted to push him based on his good look, and the fact that he also, at the time had Hollywood connections with Jennifer Hudson, and also, he was in a couple of things here and there, and then they just wanted to kind of split that. But that you can't make it. You can't just make a dude have charisma. He had no charisma. He was as bland as a bread sandwich.
He went to Harvard, guys. He went to Harvard. Nobody cares.
So did Chris Nowinski, and he had charisma, and I cared about that.
And he's saving lives. So what's Otunga's?
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I wasn't, and yeah, it was just one of those things where it's like, okay, it's wrestling. It clearly wasn't gonna work out. But people forget he was tag champions with John Cena. Yeah, and then and then they tried him out in commentary. He barely contributed anything to commentary, just sitting there. You realize you're supposed to talk, David. You're supposed to actually add some voice to it. But yeah, you'd forget he was there. And then he'd show up in movie. He was in that really bad WWE produced Halle Berry movie called The Call. He's in the movie. He's in that movie. But yeah, and now
I remember The Core.
Yeah, and now I think he's I don't know what he's doing now. They worked out they probably couldn't do much with him, and so I don't know. I think it was just because of status that he made it so far. Yeah.
But with that, we're now time to get on to the winner of season 1, which was Wade Barrett, who was paired with Chris Jericho, and this is one of those ones where from about the middle of the season, it was in my head, it's if Wade Barrett doesn't win this, I don't know what they're doing. He was I don't think he was winning a lot. He was kind of just steamrolling through the competition at this point. With a lot of the challenges, he kind of, there was some challenge, I think it was the obstacle course, he just refused to compete in. And just a bunch of these challenges, he just didn't do much taking part of. But But like in the he just said his talking happened in the ring and it worked out for him. But yeah, and ultimately like he invoked his title shot at Night of Champions, which he competed in a 6-pack challenge and lost that title shot. I think he did end up winning the WWE Championship at one point, if I'm mistaken.
No, he did.
Oh,
No,
he
he never
did.
did.
But now he's just resigned to commentary because I think that I don't know if he can't compete or if he just doesn't want to. But I would like him to get back in the ring actually. But Jacob, what are your thoughts about Wade Barrett?
I am in agreement with you, like Malcolm. I'm surprised that they didn't do more with him, but of all the crop, if they were going to push, like Wade Barrett should have won, and he did, which was I thought was a pretty good move. You know, it's strange. Like when I heard that he was coming back, I was like, "Oh, to wrestle?" Like, no, just to do commentary, which is kind of unfortunate because I'm like, I was trying to remember, did he get injured? Did he do something? Like, I don't remember him getting injured necessarily, but I just remember him leaving, and it was just really odd. I feel like he was kind of in the Baron Corbin role before Baron Corbin became a thing. Like he was a heel that was given all the crap creative stuff and told to make it work. Like there are some disturbing parallels with the careers of Baron Corbin and Wade Barrett if you look hard enough. That's my point. I always liked his work. I'm happy he's back. I'm happy he's back now. And in terms of the grand design of it, I'm just I'm just thinking it was the right call that he won.
Yeah. But yeah, I know. Yeah, so I was just trying to find, but I can't see anything of that if he was injured. I know some people saying that he's injured. He was injured and he can't compete, but I don't know. But Richie, what are your thoughts about Wade Barrett?
Yeah, I like Wade Barrett, and I feel like I think it was when they were doing the promos, and he was the only one that was good at it. Well, when you're talking about the wins to change, I'm like, oh, okay, he's one. And him and Chris Jericho actually paired well together. He looked like a star. Yeah, he probably should have been WWE champion. I feel like maybe the thing was like they bundled the booking with Nexus, and it's like I think maybe Cena had control of that. But yeah, like if you want to make next thing, you should make Wade Barrett champion. I think he would have been a decent champion. I don't think when he left, I don't think he wrestled anywhere else. I think he became the commissioner of NWA for a bit, and he was also the commissioner of Defy Wrestling, which was the former What Culture Pro Wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And then and then when he got picked up from WWE, so he didn't actually wrestle many matches, if at all. Once he left, after he got kicked out of that really bad League of Nations faction. And yeah, I mean, there's been rumors that he might be. I don't think he's fully done. I think it's almost like a Corey Gray situation, where it's like, yeah, like he's cleared. They might wait for something to do. There's always been rumors about him doing something with Drew McIntyre, their friend. So I could see that happening sometime down the line. Hopefully. So he said himself in interviews that he's not done. So
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely been some interactions between Barrett and McIntyre, which makes me think they are leading to some planning on maybe considering something because because Wade's always been one of those people that trying to make Drew see reason a bit. But let's not forget, he put Wade Barrett played John Gold in I Am Vengeance. I don't know what that. There's a movie apparently, which had a sequel.
John Gold. Wow.
he was also in Dead Man Down with Colin Farrell.
That's the one I'm trying to pull.
But with that, Jacob, did you have a favorite match from season 1 of NXT?
My personal favorite was the one Richie mentioned earlier. It was Daniel Bryan and Chris Jericho from, I believe, the very first episode.
Yeah.
Because Bryan took like a bump on the announce table, like his ribs or his lower back, that I felt like in my lower back and ribs. Like I just felt it. And just out of all of the matches on here, that one was the best because Chris Jericho was not in the peak 2008 I am the best in the world at what I do era, but he was just coming off of that. And so he was still relatively active. He was the world champion at the time. So he was still good.
That's right.
He was still good. Danielson is Danielson. So that was my favorite match.
And Richard, do you have a favorite match on the season of NXT?
Honestly, not to be boring, but it's the same. It's the same match. I think this match is pretty good. And yeah, I just remember that bump that he took. But yeah, it's also an argument for, and I've said this before, especially since the JD injury. It's like, remember in like early 2000s when they moved the announce table to like the top of the ramp, and kind of cool. Well, maybe you should do it there so they can dive properly and have more room to dive. So because I think that's the issue. There's too little room between the ring and the announce table to actually do a dive. That match is pretty damn good. And then I feel that's the only one big match where they actually let Daniel Bryan actually go for it and show what he can do.
Just so I'm not being so boring, because that is actually my favorite match as well, just for every reason that you said. But I actually really did like the triple threat between Justin Gabriel, Wade Barrett, and David Otunga in the finale as well. I think that was still a pretty good match, and showed sort of where each of those three went. And then the other question I do have is do you think that the Nexus group that came out of this season was a success? So I know there was definitely some debate on that, but Richie, what do you think?
Sorry, can you repeat that? Yeah.
Did you think that Nexus was ultimately a success as a faction?
No, I don't believe so. I think they, no, I don't. I think because they squandered the biggest thing, their first big match, which is the WWE versus Nexus. Nexus should have won. But to have John Cena just, like 2-on-1 beat both guys, it was almost like, okay, well, this makes no sense. And so, yeah, I think like had you given them momentum, because like when the Nexus debuted, that was one of the best debuts like ever. I think that was a great, impactful debut. And then you capitalize on that by, I think you should capitalize on that by, you beat Team WWE, Team WWE, especially when you have Bret Hart on the team and you can't actively wrestle. And then, you have Wade Barrett beat John Cena, and then you have this kind of dominance and establish them, but they didn't do that. It was booked all wrong, and then they tried to salvage it by doing NXT. Nexus 2.0 with CM Punk, with like, which we'll probably get to as well later on. But yeah, I didn't think it. I don't think it was fair. I think it was a good idea. I think it was, to make these a heel group. That's a great idea, but in execution, it didn't work.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those ones where I'm kind of in two minds in here. I think Nexus was a success up to SummerSlam, which is, and I feel like it could have gone more, but I think for what they did in that brief time, sort of leading up to SummerSlam, sort of showing their dominance and all that, I think it worked to an extent. And depending on who you want to blame for SummerSlam, I know I know there's reports saying that it was John Cena has admitted that like it was his fault. I don't know if that's 100% true. I think it's true, but I would like and it's one of those ones. John Cena probably definitely did have a part to play in it, because he was in that match. But it's like I don't know if it's necessarily his fault that like they were booked. WWE was booked to win, but it's just one of those ones like because I am in agreement that Nexus should have won that SummerSlam match, 100%. But it's I don't think the blame solely falls on John Cena either. Because I think there was talks about, because I think it was definitely around this time where they'd started floating the idea of making John Cena heel.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
I think Wade Barrett talks about it in like there's these those wrestling shoot things that can't remember his name, but Kenny.
Chris Van Fleet.
I know there's Kenny McIntosh too, who does his wrestling
Oh
thing.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
yeah, British dude, and he talked about how like they were scheduled to win, and then like right before they went to curtain, our team's going over. So yeah, so I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, but Jacob, did you think that the Nexus was ultimately successful?
I think all told, they were a little bit successful. They should have won a SummerSlam, yes, but it spawned a couple of successful guys out of it. I mean, it was just a case of, to quote Brian Zane, the gum lost its flavor. So I feel like they had creative up to a certain point and then nothing after that. And so they decided to go with the reliable thing in Cena, which, I mean, fine and all, but I mean, imagine what you could have done with, like, say, a few more months of the Nexus.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's one of those what ifs that just will leave you go, yeah, what if the Nexus had won?
Yeah. But moving on, that's kind of end of season one. Moving into season two, and season two was shortened. It was just 12 weeks long, with the first elimination taking place like 4 weeks, as opposed to 6 weeks. And then they announced that 50% of the decision is going to be decided by the pros, and then the other half is decided by the WWE universe via polls, which, as evident by other reality TV shows, I don't know how accurate they were, but it is what it is. And with that comes a new bunch of rookies and pros. Then the first up we had was Titus O'Neil, whose pro was Zack Ryder, who is at this point of his career, is a weird choice for a pro. So it's a case of, like, who are some people that we need to find something to do? Zack Ryder, he needs something to do, so let's make him a pro. But Jake, what are your thoughts about Titus O'Neil?
I mean, Titus O'Neil might be one of like the most nicest, in terms of human beings, one of the nicest wrestlers you will ever meet. I feel like his career was just genuinely snake bit, and we could do an entire Wrestling with Regret did an entire Titus O'Neil retrospective. I mean, just go watch that. But you could do a whole like Greek tragedy of sorts of like Titus O'Neil's entire career. It's genuinely sad, but there is confidence in knowing that A, he's a nice person, like I said, and B, he had at least some success. He was a tag champion. He did some good things. So in terms of really nice people, he's ultimately the winner, I guess. It's a shame they didn't do more with him.
Yeah. And Richie, what are your thoughts about Titus O'Neil?
Yeah, I sort of echo the same sentiments. I think he's, obviously proven himself being a really genuinely nice dude. Who's, and yeah, like I like the primetime players as a tag team, and it's cool that they get the tag titles. I think he's always going to be haunted by the Titus World Slide thing with the but yeah. And then I feel like he got a raw deal too with like him getting a bit suspended with like grabbing Vince's arm and that bullshit. That was but it's cool. He's technically a WWE Hall of Famer. He won the Warrior Award, well deserved. And like he's always going to be around as ambassador. Just like a very really really nice dude. Who and it's cool that he had that sort of success. And it's always cool to sort of see him around. He seems like a cool, genuine guy.
Imagine not liking Titus O'Neil. I don't want to know those people.
Yeah. He seems rad. He just seems very authentic, and I felt awkward for him too. Remember when they charted him out there? It was at WrestleMania. It was one where it was sort of still during COVID, but they had people there. It was like, but they charted him out there with Hulk Hogan. It was so awkward. But but no, great guy.
Yeah, I meant to play this one as the lead-in, but
He's had a very busy week here in Saudi Arabia. He's had dinner with many princes and very important people, and he just.
Oh my God! What the heck? What did Titus just? I can't believe what I just.
I mean, it's one of those ones like I did really like Titus O'Neil. I think it's one of those ones like I think even he can laugh about this moment now too. It's like it's just one of those ones like, but like pretty much like what you said. Like I think Titus O'Neil was great. Like the fact he was the first one eliminated when you had other people that I think should have been eliminated first. I think is a wrong choice. But and it's one of those ones like I know he's technically a Hall of Famer for the Warrior Award. I wouldn't mind if they decided to put him in like as his own sort of spot as well. But but moving on to mustache is Eli Cottonwood.
What is a mustache?
Whose pro was John Morrison. Look, I don't really have much to say about Eli Cottonwood. Like he was a big dude. I think there was talk of him being in the Wyatt family at one point, and then it never happened or something. But he was one of those ones. I think he was really awkward in the ring, but I don't have much to say. I think it's fine, but it's like I also think he probably should have been the first to go. But Jacob, what are your thoughts about Eli Cottonwood?
Out of this cast, he was the one that impressed me the least. And considering the fact that he was easily the tallest, like he just had he looked like he came out of that Giant Gonzalez, like Great Khali school of tall wrestler, which I'm sure he's a nice guy in real life, but it just never really worked for me. And the whole what is a mustache thing, that certainly did not help his cause. John Morrison, I've always had a soft spot for. I thought he was always just really good, but he's no miracle worker, and he couldn't really do much with him. So, like I said, of this main cast for season 2, he was the least talented one, in my opinion.
Yeah. Richie, what are your thoughts about Eli Cottonwood?
Yeah, I feel like you kind of just described him when he just said he's a big dude. That was pretty much it. He was a big dude, and that's probably why he got. I don't know how they found him. I don't know if he had much wrestling experience prior to this. I almost felt bad for him with that mustache promo. Or it's just like they just threw him in the deep end. Threw him in the deep end. Granted, if we'll go through it, but a lot of the promos on there weren't great. I'm surprised. We'll get to it. But I'm surprised Joe Henning had a career after this. He's just I think he's just a big limited dude. Like even if he like made it past the show, he wouldn't have had much of a main roster career. There's only he'd be a heel for a bit, and then like they would run out of things to do with him, and he'd have a dancing gimmick like they always do with the big dudes when they run out of things to do with them. So like he's probably the least kind of impressive out of the group. I'd agree.
Yeah, I meant to mention this when we talked about Tyson Hill. He was another one that reappeared on Texas NXT Redemption, and he was paired with Hornswoggle of all people.
That was a Vince McMahon decision. You just know it.
But moving on, we've got Lucky Cannon, whose pro was Mark Henry. Richie, we're going to start with you. What were your thoughts about Lucky Cannon?
I just think this is the silliest name of all time, and that says a lot because even now, I thought it was a Vince thing, but apparently not, because they still come out with silly names for wrestlers. Just had a dude, on Evolve called Cole Braxton. They just merged two announcers together, but yeah, Trip London. But yeah, he had a lot of confidence. His wrestling wasn't there, and like I feel like I think he had a low ceiling. I think if he made it to the main roster, he'd be a jobber, and then you wouldn't hear much about him because he was only slightly above Eli Cottonwood for me. Like I didn't like he was probably like a good looking dude, but yeah, there wasn't much else there, unfortunately. He'll settle with a really bad name, which doesn't help his cause. So yeah, that's when I think of Lucky Cannon.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same as I didn't really think much of him. And it's one of those ones where I thought it was somewhat decent in the ring though. I don't think he had a bad match. But and it was his pairing with Mark Henry was just a lot of fun. It was just having Mark Henry sort of stand up every time Cody Rhodes broke up against Lucky Cannon. But Lucky Cannon and Cody Rhodes seemed to have a weird rivalry from the start here. It was but yeah, Jacob, what are your thoughts about Lucky Cannon?
I legitimately forgot who this person was. Like until we started talking about him, I saw Richie's lower third, and I'm like, is that his new trivia nickname now? I was gonna ask, and then I was like, oh no, it's this one. So very clearly, I don't really know much about him, and I don't really know much to say about him. But just think in a few months' time, Mark Henry would be doing his Hall of Pain run, and the rest of that is history.
Yeah. So Lucky Cannon is one of the few people that haven't done anything since he was released. He did some FCW matches in 2011. Then he has not wrestled since 2011, so it's he's kind of fallen off the map. But moving on to another one of those pairings that just made sense. It's Showtime Percy Watson paired with MVP. And I don't have the clip of him going, oh yeah, but once again, another wrestler who had a very catchphrase that he just overused throughout NXT, but Percy Watson was really fun to watch, and even when he won that competition of his talk shows, he was a really good on the mic and all that, so I get why they he ended up becoming a commentator on NXT I think it was NXT UK, was it? Or just
No, just anything on like
regular NXT.
Even though it took me like because I remember watching him on one of the on it was I definitely saw it for the NXT shows he did do. Is like I did not recognize his voice until like it was pointed out like, oh yeah, that was Percy Watson. Like he was a little bit different of a different voice now. But Jay, what are your thoughts about Percy Watson?
He literally said Showtime so many times on commentary, it's burned into my brain. So it's impossible for me to not remember who Percy Watson is. But like you said, Malcolm, this pairing made all the sense in the world because MVP is MVP. Percy Watson, very charismatic. They're both very charismatic. So it seemed like the mentor-mentee pairings in this era were either the odd couple or the ones that just made all the sense in the world with like no in-between whatsoever. This was one of the ones that made sense. It's a bit of a shame that Percy Watson didn't go farther than he did. So it's a bit of a shame there. But I'll always remember him saying Showtime a lot, and that's certainly better than Eli Cottonwood, but I digress.
And Richie, what are your thoughts about Percy Watson?
Yeah, the only guy I can recall that wearing really like glasses of goggles in the ring. Wasn't like, yeah. But yeah, I thought he had charisma, and yeah, he stood out by that. But yeah, obviously the Showtime catchphrase gets a bit annoying. But like, yeah, I thought he was decent. I thought they could have done more. I thought his charisma didn't really carry over to being on commentary though. He was kind of bland. Like he'd be like Otunga who'd forget to talk sometimes, and he wouldn't really add much to it. I think sort of pairing him with maybe Moro is Moro's very big personality, and sort of sometimes it's like and I don't think they meshed well too. And I think having a 3-man booth because Nigel was there too, and he was sort of the meek sort of person, so he didn't really he didn't add much to it. But yeah, like I think the last time I saw Percy Watson he was involved in the ill-fated fucking EC3 control your narrative bullshit, where he was like I think he was doing some sketch for them. So yeah, but yeah, I mean I've always like I thought the guy had potential.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see sort of how Percy Watson would go on commentary now, like now that it's kind of letting the commentators do their own thing now, like
Yeah.
but it could like back then it could just be because like he was sort of saying what he was told to say rather than leading his own sort of.
Although NXT, I don't think that was the case. I don't think he had control over NXT.
Yeah, well, I know Vince did it. I don't know whether or not Triple H was still sort of, I don't know, keeping the commentators sort of somewhat grounded as just like the other. I don't know.
Yeah.
But moving on to the rookie from this season, who I would argue is probably the most successful of the bunch, and that's Husky Harris, which became Bray Wyatt in the end there. And this is one of those pairings that like, even though like Cody from the start, Cody Rhodes seemed to not want to it. It also made sense because they're both sort of generational talent. So that pairing did make sense for that reason. But I think, but yeah, I always thought Husky Harris was really good in the ring and even on commentary, not commentary, when you Zoom programs, he's always been a good talker and just even when you became Bray Wyatt, and it's just sad that we lost him too soon, but it is what it is. But Jacob, what were your thoughts about Husky Harris?
The Army tank with the Ferrari engine.
Yeah.
He became such into Bray Wyatt that I and I'm sure a lot of people also forgot that he was Husky Harris for a good few years. Very few people remember that he was the son of IRS, like Mike Rotunda. So he was just a chameleon. but that's a story for a whole nother time. Despite Husky Harris having a bigger look, he, like you said, Malcolm, I always liked his ring work. I feel like he can make a lot of things work. I just feel like creative just failed him, both as Husky Harris and as Bray Wyatt, but that's a whole other odyssey for a whole nother time. It is a real shame that Bray Wyatt is no longer with us. I mean, even in his lowest moments, I was still pulling for him. Like, lowest creative moments, I should say. Like, I was still pulling for him. So, I forgot that he only finished 4th in this. I would have thought he would have finished higher. Because I feel like in terms of the podium, I'm going to call it, 3rd, 2nd, and 1st, I feel like the next person we're going to get to, I feel like you could swap those two, and that would have been better.
And Richie, what are your thoughts about Husky Harris?
Yeah, I mean, I've been like a huge fan of like Wyndham Rotunda. I think he's fantastic. Yeah, I wouldn't know, like there's flashes of that here, like like with the Zine ring work, he's very impressive. He has a good look, but yeah, they didn't give him like there's not much to glom onto here in terms of character. He's just he's a dude that's like a like generational talent that's a good wrestler. They didn't, but we weren't to know until later on that like how good of a, how much of a genius he is. Right? And yeah, but obviously, always been I became like a huge fan of Bray Wyatt, Wyndham Rotunda, Scarra. So he's one of my favorites. So. I think maybe they could have done more favors here, but yeah, I obviously I love Bray Wyatt when Husky Harris.
But moving on to the next one, which was another pairing that just made sense, and that's Alex Riley, who was paired with The Miz, returning from season 1, and I believe. This was when Miz was. He either was Money in the Bank at the start of this, or he became it later on. But Jacob, what are your thoughts about Alex Riley?
So, like I said, if you swapped Husky Harris and Alex Riley, I think that would have been a better final 3, because Alex Riley and Husky Harris are like two ends of the spectrum in terms of talent. And Alex Riley was never bad per se, but I just thought Husky Harris was better. That's the point I'm trying to get at. I feel like they tried to make Alex Riley into a thing in 2011, and that didn't really go anywhere. I was there when it happened, when Alex Riley and Kevin Owens had their feud, and Kevin Owens just owned this poor man. Alex Riley was just like, I will not stop, I will rage. And Kevin Owens was like, this is you. And he takes a picture of a gas pump and it says regular. That is like the greatest Kevin Owens tweet of all time. Again, I'm side roading. Point is, beyond Alex Riley being the Miz's like lackey, I didn't really see much out of him.
Yeah. And Richie, what are your thoughts about Alex Riley?
Yeah, I was never like a huge fan. I understood why pushing him, like he has a good look, like sort of that, that college jock sort of look. And he was decent enough in the ring. I liked his babyface turn. I thought it was really well done. Like it obviously popped the crowd. They were chanting for Riley. I'm like, oh man, they have something here, and they never capitalized on it. They had Alex Riley beat them. You're like, oh sweet. And then they just gave up on it as soon as they went with it almost. And then they had him back on commentary, not long after. And then he wasn't like he was alright on commentary, but yeah, then he had that stupid rage gimmick was very cringe. I'm angry for no reason. I'm just angry. And yeah, I think Kevin Owens just buried him. He did try to come back, like was it like a couple years ago, a year and a half ago, where he had a match with EC3 at NWA, and then himself by trying to do a dive, which he's never actually tried to do before. So I don't know why he would try to do it in his 40s. He went in at a weird angle as well, which is really weird. I don't know how he was planning to try and get to catch to actually connect with EC3, but yeah, it was a wrong thing to do. But yeah, I don't know. I always thought he was okay. I didn't see like the huge hype in him, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those ones like for me, I really liked Alex Riley. I thought he was one of those ones like I personally thought it was entertaining. Like if I was to take one person out of the final three, Alex Riley actually wouldn't have been the one I would take out. We'll get to him in a minute. But I think he was pretty good. And it's funny with Alex Riley, it's like Alex Riley won the triple threat in the final, then he gets eliminated. So it's kind of weird, but it is what it is in the end. But yeah, and another thing that I kind of meant to sort of mention this, like from there, like throughout this, like especially when it got to the later episodes, they could have just pretty much called this Raw or SmackDown recaps with a little bit of NXT because god damn it, there's so many like segments like remember this thing on Raw this week, which
they didn't have enough content to fill up the show.
It was the Raw Rebound, brought to you by Snickers.
Yeah. And I there's actually one episode of NXT, especially in season 2, where it's like you had a 6-man tag match between the 6 remaining rookies, and you had Miz and Morrison randomly deciding to have a match. But I digress. But moving on to Michael McGillicuddy, whose pro was Kofi Kingston. The pairing, it's one of those ones where I think the pairing made sense, but Michael McGillicuddy is how he managed to get to the top 3 is beyond me. It's like especially when it comes to the promos, and especially in these later seasons, a lot of these challenges were promos. Michael McGillicuddy is a bland fish. It's like, and just and after the winners announced, like the promo that he does in the finals, like this will be the moment of the genesis of McGillicuddy. He's like, and yeah, but yeah, nothing really happened after that. Like him and Husky was just put into Nexus and then forgot about pretty much. But Jacob, what are your thoughts about Michael McGillicuddy?
This will be the moment of the genesis of McGillicuddy. Another all-timer right there, along with the mustache line. But son of Curtis Axel, they really tried to make him into a thing. They really did. Like he beat Triple H, I remember one time. I think it was a count out, but regardless, like he beat him for that.
Yeah, he was Intercontinental Champion.
Yep, he was. And like I feel like no one remembers. I feel like no one really remembers that. I could have sworn that like he would have still been wrestling by this point, and I guess he's not because he got fired in that mass wave of firings in 2020 and then just never came back. Like at least Bo Dallas is out now.
Is he working backstage or not? I'm not sure if he's working backstage or not. But yeah.
I'm just looking it up now. But Richie, what are your thoughts about Michael McGillicuddy?
Oh yeah. First of all, Michael McGillicuddy is a stupid name. He should have. I know. I understand why he wanted to not go. Use the heading. I understand that. But like Curtis Axel's a way better name. You should have stuck. You should have had that from the get go. So that McGillicuddy doesn't present star to me. Yeah, like unfortunately, sometimes if you have a charismatic father or mom or whatever, sometimes that charisma doesn't pass down to you. You got you got Denzel Washington, and then you got John David Washington. There you go, and then you got Then you got you've got Kurt Hennig, and then you've got Joe Hennig, Michael McGillicuddy. Another sort of underrated, funny cringe line is when I can't might have been can't remember when he was talking. Why are you wearing trunks? Are you going swimming?
Oh God, I remember that.
Such a dumb line. uh, yeah, I don't know how he survived it. Yeah, he wasn't that impressive. He was just, you look at him like, man, like you had no one to compare him to if he wasn't. I think the fact that he was uh, part of a famous lineage sort of did him disservice. If he was just like a dude, like you wouldn't have anything to compare him to because he's like the son of one of the most charismatic dudes in wrestling history. Like hard. Yeah, and yeah, it just didn't impress. Yeah, like he would be, he was a Paul Heyman guy. People forget for a bit, and then he'd be tag champion with David Otunga for a bit, and then yeah, he'd be like quickly become a jobber. He'd be in the Social Outcasts, which is basically 3MB point two 2.0, but just with like added people like Adam Rose and Bo Dallas. And yeah, and I think he would do that. He was doing that gimmick where he would with Damien and Sandow, and they would betray other gimmicks, and then he'd leave. But yeah, and I think he got some job in WWE. Maybe he was a trainer or something, or he was going to, or he did and got fired again. I don't know, but yeah, look, he never really impressed me. I think, yeah, it's just like one of those things where I don't think he's ever going to get catch on. He just some people charisma is something you have or you don't, and he just didn't.
Yeah, yeah, that's one of those ones like talking about cringe lines, like a cringe line related to Michael McGillicuddy, but coming from his pro Kofi Kingston is when Kofi has tried the trending thing like McGilla buddies.
Buddies.
God bless Kofi Kingston for trying
Yeah.
to make that work. It didn't, but God bless him, he tried.
And yeah, to clear it up, in 2022, he was rehired by WWE as a producer. On the May 30th episode of Raw, he is shown as one of the security team members that's breaking up the brawl between Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins that was happening on that day. And then he was released like 3 months later. So yeah, he's that was the most recent thing on his Wikipedia page anyway. But yeah, Jacob, did you have a favorite match from season 2?
Honestly, I don't. Honestly, I don't remember much beyond the contestants here, so I don't really have one. I'm sorry to say.
That's all good. Richie, did you have a favorite match from season 2 that you can remember?
I can't remember. I was like googling ones that kind of jog my mind to see if they need jog my memory. I guess like something involving Caval. Have we talked about Caval yet?
Yeah, I realized that just after I said it. It's like, oh shit. But we'll finish off this and we'll go.
It'd probably be someone. Yeah, it's probably someone involving Caval because he's a great wrestler. But yeah, we'll get to him.
Yeah, no, I don't like. There's not really a lot of memorable matches like to the level of Jericho and Bryan from season 1. But once again, I'll say the Alex Riley versus McGillicuddy versus Caval from the final, I think, was good. But anyway, moving on to Caval, which I should have mentioned before we went into that. But we had Caval, whose pairing was Lay Cool, which was a really random pairing. I'm not gonna lie, but
I've got a theory. I think because I mean, look, Low Key is known to be a dick in wrestling. He's known. I think even early on, it wouldn't surprise me if he rubbed people out the wrong way. So this could be a troll. This could be like, screw you. These are going to be your pros. Yeah, this is probably to make him look like an idiot.
yeah, which ended up backfiring a bit with having him win. But yeah, like Caval, I thought was somewhat interesting. There was a really random subplot from the middle, when it was the stupid challenge of the kissing competition that they decided to do at one point, where they where like it kind of started off a love affair between Caval and Layla, which I was like, there was that thing, and then I think that they were trying to make a love interest between Michelle and Husky Harris happen as well. But ultimately, like Caval won. He cashed in his title shot for the Intercontinental Championship at Survivor Series, but then he lost.
Like a geek.
And then he was released in December the same year. So I was like, it seems like if cats like W was like, shit, we haven't had Caval in his title shot, and we want to release it. Like, well, Survivor. It's like, but Jacob, what are your thoughts about Caval?
I mean, in terms of in-ring, I thought Loki was always quite good, or Caval in this case. I mean, from what I have heard, he is not a nice person, so there is that. I feel like his case is weird because like they pit him with Lay Cool, which okay, like that's certainly again is a choice. Again, odd couple, perfect pairing, no in between. And then he challenges Dolph Ziggler for the IC title, and then nothing much after that. It's a bit of a weird run. Like, just have McGillicuddy win it if that's what you want to do, but I don't know. Feels like they could have done more with him, I guess.
And Richie, what are your thoughts about Caval?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, as a wrestler, he's great. Legendary indie wrestler, first Ring of Honor champion. Very, very, very good wrestler. Much like who gets it, and much like Ryback, he gets in his own way. I think he's a dude who's also been released from every company because of him being hard to work with, him being a dick. But yeah, I can't deny his talent. But yeah, it wouldn't shock me if his maybe perceived attitude is the reason he had such a short tenure and why he was paired with Lake in the first place. But maybe to try and make him look like a geek. If they didn't pivot towards fan voting, then maybe he would have been eliminated first go. And that would be the last time we'd hear about Caval in WWE, and that would be the shortest career. But as a wrestler, he was good. And then if he could have kept on the straight and narrow as far as attitude, he could have, I could have seen him as an Intercontinental Champion or something like that. I'm actually surprised, he even lost. I thought maybe he'd have won, but as a wrestler, he's phenomenal. But
I believe he's doing something in AEW now.
I know he competes regularly for House of Glory.
Yeah.
Oh no, he's in Major League. Well, at least the last thing I can see was he was in Major League Wrestling up to 2021. He's not doing anything at the current that I can see.
Between him and Teddy Hart, Court Bauer must have something up his sleeve to get these people onto his roster.
Yeah, and to a lesser extent, like Matt Riddle's there too.
Yeah, I mean, sure, but
but moving on to the season that I believe I want to say contributed to the going really off all over the place, and that season
is the fucking worst in this.
Oh yes, there was an episode where he gong and walked out, and you had CM Punk replace him for an episode, and there was a lot of things. But we're on to the Divas season, of course, with a little bit of controversy before we even started because Vicky's Pro was initially announced to be Aloysia, and then was dropped after pornography pictures were leaked.
Was that giant lady?
Yeah, like so I know in the finale they did a whole package where they were like introducing the rookies for that season. And then they had a thing in between where Vicky fired her for reasons, and then getting Caitlyn. Which honestly, I don't know much about Aloysia now, but it's like and we'll get to it when we get to it. There's still got a way to go before we get to Vicky to admit Vicky's rookie anyway. And then they also changed the prize to the winner just getting a WWE contract instead of a title shot of their choosing.
Because they probably don't trust themselves to remember that.
Well, I mean, I think it's that. I think they only had the one woman's title or something at this or two at this point. I don't know. But with that, we're going to go to the first one, which was Jamie, who was the ring announcer for season 2, transitioning into wrestling. And her pro was the Bella Twins. Jacob, what are your thoughts about Jamie, if you can remember?
I do not remember anything about this woman, and I don't want to come across as harsh, but this season, this was in my period where I wasn't watching wrestling regularly, so I don't remember much from here, so I'm sorry to say. I do know that like Caitlyn winning was probably the best choice, maybe of either Caitlyn or Naomi, because at least Naomi went on to do great things, and AJ, I mean, we all know who she is. We'll get to her.
Well, yeah, we'll get to them in due course. But Richie, do you remember anything about Jamie?
I'm literally just looking her up. I'm like, what the hell? I'm like,
she doesn't even have a Wikipedia. I'm looking it up on my phone. She doesn't even have a Wikipedia.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Jamie Keys, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't remember much of her. So yeah, I don't know. I guess she's not the only person who's announced trying to transition to wrestling. She was like, she did this before Dasha tried to do it, right? In WWE. So yeah, I don't remember much. I can't contribute. I don't remember much of her. I'm sure she's a nice lady.
Well, apparently, from I've heard rumors that the referee Jessica Carr's training to be a wrestler now as well.
Oh, she was a wrestler beforehand, but she's transitioned back to being.
Well,
yeah.
I didn't actually know that part. But yeah. Like when I like rewatched this season recently, like Jamie is probably the one I'd forgotten about too. Until it was like, oh yeah, she was a fan. It was like, and as well as those ones, they tried their best to hype her up. But it's like she wasn't like one of the probably the nice girl in this a lot. It's like, and yeah, she really didn't do anything memorable. And yeah, and actually, the other thing I was going to mention, with this season, they definitely put more emphasis on challenges as opposed to matches because.
I remember one episode where I think it was one where maybe Cole wasn't there, but like when CM Punk was commentating, and then they were doing musical chairs, and he quipped, he did a smartest comment, quipped, he's like, oh, we learned. I think I must have missed this when we were doing this in wrestling school or something like that.
Yeah. But it was like and the rookie that had the most challenge wins before the elimination was going to have immunity, which led to some people sort of staying there longer than I think they should have. But moving on, the next one we have is Maxine, who is more memorable for having a sort of random thing with Hornswoggle throughout the seasons, like and and her opponent was Alicia Fox, who wasn't really doing anything on the Divas roster at this point either. But Richie, what are your thoughts about Maxine?
I remember she wasn't very good, and that was she one of the ones. There was someone who maybe got in the crosshairs of people like Randy Orton. I know Amy Weber did, but like there was something there. Like there was some reason why like she didn't last long in the company. I know she got one of the very many targets at JBL and bullying, and she left. But yeah, like yeah, I think she was maybe on the main. She did go to the main roster, but only for like a little bit. Uh, and yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I did not like watching her matches. I didn't think she had potential at all. I just say, yeah.
Um, and Jacob, do you remember anything about Maxine at all?
Not much. What I will say is thank God for Lucha Underground because she becomes Katrina in Lucha Underground. She was
Oh yeah,
way
right.
better.
um, but yeah, moving on to the next one, we had Aksana, whose pro was Gold Dust, and once again, another one that throughout the season had a storyline for whatever reason about Aksana having deportation issues and Gold Dust marrying her so she can stay in the America, which was a storyline that happened. But Richard, what are your thoughts about Aksana?
Yeah, she wasn't very good either. But yeah, like I guess because they're women, they always have to get involved in like romantic storylines, and it was just like, hey, yeah, let's have her marry. But yeah, like because it's a wrestling wedding, they're not gonna go to plan. So I guess she turns heel, but she kind of already was. And yeah, it was weird. Yeah, I didn't think she had much potential. She wasn't long for the company, but she made it to the main roster, had a few matches, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they ever got divorced, to be honest. Oh, they didn't get really married, so yeah, didn't follow up on the main roster anyway.
Yeah, no, I think when she was moved to the main roster, I think she became the assistant to Teddy Long. It was either Teddy Long or John Laurinaitis. It was
Yeah,
one of the two.
I don't remember, but yeah, it was. I remember it just like I think they quickly realized, oh, okay, we're not going to use her as an in-ring talent because she's not really good. They should have a couple
Yeah,
of matches here and there.
yeah,
Yeah, it's just it's like she's obviously not going to make it far in the show.
yeah. And yeah, I don't have much to add about Aksana. Like she wasn't good. And yeah. Um, Jacob, any remembrance of Aksana?
I know she was like Cesaro's manager for a little bit,
Oh, that's right. She was Cesaro's manager. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's all I know, unfortunately.
But next up, is one of the ones that I'd argue has probably had a decent enough success in WWE, and that's AJ Lee, whose pro was Primo. And there's a kind of random moment near the end where it was like AJ Lee and Primo falling in love. It's like,
Mhm.
once again, pretty much the story of this one, really, like a lot of romantic storylines and stuff. But I don't know. AJ Lee was a bit of a right. No, AJ Lee was great. I'm not gonna lie. I was really hoping she was going to return to the Royal Rumble this year. It's like, I would have loved to see her as instead of some couple of other people that turned up. But I've always enjoyed AJ Lee as a wrestler. I think she's always been entertaining and yeah, um, and I think Michael Cole gave a shit about being a nude so many times. But Jacob, any thoughts on AJ Lee?
Season 3 is the worst season of this show. However, the top 3, that being AJ and the other 2, which we'll get to in a second, I feel like had the most success because at least for AJ, she had that longest running Divas Championship run of all time. Like AJ for a while was just fantastic, and she's retired now, and like God bless her, she retired with her health and is married to CM Punk, and they seem to be doing very well for themselves, and that is all well and good. I'm not gonna lie though, Malcolm, I was a little disappointed that she didn't show up, but I mean, clearly she's very happy in retirement, and more power to her. But like I said, of the top threes of the seasons, this is probably, in terms of longevity and success, this is probably the most successful I'll just throw out there.
Yeah. And Richie, any thoughts on AJ Lee?
Oh yeah, I'm a huge fan of AJ Lee. I think she's very intelligent. Obviously, she's a co-writer on the direct-to-DVD sequel of was it 47 Ronin? It's interesting tidbit there. Yeah, she helps. I think she was helping running Wow Women's Wrestling, so she's still like have been sort of involved in wrestling. But yeah, I think her character work is second to none. I think she's got charisma for days. She's a good wrestler. I think you could argue she started the women's revolution. I think when she called out Stephanie on her shit on Twitter, and then they had to respond. But yeah, like her mic work was great. Yeah, like I think she had it all really. I think, yeah, if she won, that would have been, I wouldn't have complained about that. I think AJ rules. Yeah, another tidbit that I can't remember what pay-per-view it is, but she does show up in an old TNA pay-per-view around 2008, because she dated Jay Lethal and she's in the crowd. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she was also on the second season of Heels that I'm still yet to watch.
yeah, wonder if they're ever going to review that show on Netflix. So anyway,
I don't know. I don't know if they've ever even added it to Netflix last year. But moving on to the wrestler who did it for Bianca, who did it for The Rock. But it's Naomi. I don't know. I think she did a little bit. I was not going to make that same joke again, but yeah, Naomi is probably one of the most successful ones out of this bunch. So from AJ, and yeah, I think she was fun to watch in this. Like, and it's one of those ones like she was another one of those ones that were just like a lot of times like didn't put too much stock in the challenges at some point. It was like she just wanted to get to the wrestling. It was like anytime it was a promo, it was like I think she always wanted to find out a way to get us like I just want a match. And yeah, but Jacob, what are your thoughts about Naomi?
I mean, Naomi's just great. Like, and in terms of this cast, in terms of longevity, she probably has done the best. Like, she's still going strong. I mean, she was released, but then she came back, and even when she was gone, she was still crushing it in now TNA again, but then known as Impact. So Naomi might be one of the sleeper hits in terms of NXT competitors.
And Richie, what are your thoughts about Naomi?
Yeah, Naomi's great. I think she's definitely a standout, especially when even when she went to the main roster. Like, she was paired with like Karen's like one of the fat crocodactyls, like, and they'll probably look so hot, but you didn't think like should be like break out as this like really great wrestler, but yeah, she did, and like she could hold her own, and she's I think she's one of the better women in wrestling at the moment, and like it's cool that she's involved in such a big storyline. But yeah, she had a really big run in TNA and Impact, and I wouldn't be wouldn't be disappointed if she gets another title run coming up here soon as well. I mean, I could see maybe Bianca winning maybe a title and Naomi taking her off or something.
Yeah, Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Naomi interferes in Bianca's match at Mania, which leads to that. Although, but then again, she's probably facing Jade anyway at Mania.
Yeah.
But then moving on to the winner of this season, which was Caitlyn. And yeah, Caitlyn, who was signed to SmackDown, eventually became Divas champion briefly. And then I don't think much else. I don't remember much else about what she did in WWE. I know briefly, like in 2018, 2019, she made a return in the Mae Young Classic, and then I don't think she was released, but I don't think she's done anything else since in WWE either. But so she's kind of a forgettable one, but it's like I will always remember the like love triangle storyline that her, Vicky, and Dolph had throughout this season, where Vicky as a pro for a as a wrestling pro, like yes, it's the lineage, but it makes no sense. It really doesn't. No matter how much you try to argue of how it makes sense, like But Jacob, what are your thoughts about Caitlyn?
Caitlyn was a really big deal for a while, and then she just wasn't. It's a bit of a shame because I always liked her when she was active. I thought her rivalry against AJ was quite good. I think in terms of winners, it's kind of like a Miz Daniel Pewter situation, whereas like Daniel Pewter won but didn't do much, and then the Miz is the Miz. So it's like a situation of the stone that was rejected has become the cornerstone, in that AJ Lee got third and she had a ton of success, and Naomi has had even more success.
Yeah. And Richie, what are your thoughts about Caitlyn?
Yeah, I've always been a huge fan of Caitlyn. I kind of had a bit of a crush because she's got that wholesome sort of look about her, and I was like, yeah, no, I kind of dig it. But yeah, and I thought that she I think she improved a bit in the ring too. She worked really hard. She actually, true story. Yeah, she did. Yeah, she did win the women's title, but she got the title shot on accident. She won a battle royal on accident. Yeah, so I can't remember what happened, but yeah, so someone fell out of the ring on accident, and then they had to go with it, and they just went, "Nah, let's have a win." Um, and yeah, and then yeah, she comes back for the Mae Young Classic around 2018-19. But yeah, and I thought, oh yeah, they might re-sign her here, but they didn't. And yeah, I know she was doing a lot of personal training, like being sort of involved in the fitness industry. Yeah, and I thought like yeah, but you know, it would be. She's still like young enough. I think. I thought maybe that they could bring her back. Like you know, I think she's got this sort of like not like it's out there charisma, but there is sort of charisma there. So I wouldn't hate if they brought her back. I like Caitlyn a lot.
Yeah. I'm going to hazard a guess that like both of you probably don't have a match you remember that you liked in this season.
The only match I remember is Caitlyn and Maxine, which is just awful.
Yeah, the musical chairs match. Is it a match?
Yeah, but that was more of a segment than a match.
I know.
This is the worst season of this show between like CM Punk's digs, Michael Cole just not caring. It was just terrible.
There was one like funny moment of him not caring. Or it was funny, but it was also sad. Where him and I think it was Josh Matthews gave up, and they were just watching the Big Show movie Knucklehead.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, near the end of the season, like Josh, like it was a lot of Josh Matthews and Michael just not caring at all. It was like they're barely commentating the match. This is like, there's one point where Michael Cole took a phone call from. Well, he claimed it was his mother who wanted to speak to Tony Chimmel. It was like, so yeah. And season 3 was the season where like they threw it onto .com as opposed to wherever was used to air.
Sci-fi.
Oh yeah. But moving on to season 4, which once again keeps a kind of similar format of like the challenges, getting immunity points and stuff. Like, the big difference is Michael Cole was not involved with this. It was moved over to Todd Grisham and Josh Matthews, and Josh Matthews was kind of becoming the guy, the Michael Cole of just not caring. But and then this is also the one where rookies and pros changed around, like but that the first one that was eliminated was Jacob Novak, who doesn't have a Wikipedia page, because I tried looking up to find out more about what he's doing. His pro started off as being Dolph Ziggler, and then by the end of the season, he was with Chris Masters.
That's a demotion.
Yeah, but he was kind of forgettable. He was another one that came back for NXT Redemption, who was paired with JTG at the start of it. But yeah, Jacob, do you remember anything about Jacob Novak?
I do not. This fourth season is like the season that I have no memories of, so I'm probably going to suck at this one, and I apologize in advance.
Now, it's all good. I mean, there is some people you'll know, but not as what they were when they were on NXT.
Yeah, it's like how much I do not know about this season. I legit thought that the Gold Dust Oksana wedding was in this season. As it turns out, it was the previous one. So that's my exact opinion. I'm getting them mixed up and turned around.
But Richie, did you have any memory of Jacob Novak?
I'm just on his cage match profile. Literally, the last match he's had was on NXT, losing to William Regal in season 5. So, yeah. And did he wrestle even prior? And then, yeah, really, even prior to NXT, his matches were in FCW, which was a development territory at the time. So I don't even know if he wrestled prior to getting signed. Yeah, I know the name. I know he's been in twice. But he must. I don't. If he kind of was on NXT twice and never made the main roster, that probably tells you something.
Yeah. And honestly, the fact he doesn't have a Wikipedia page says a lot too. Like, this is another one of those names which is just forgettable now. It's I've rewatched these seasons. And I still barely remember Jacob Novak. But moving on to the next one we had, it was Conor O'Brien, whose pro was Alberto Del Rio. At the start, it became Ted DiBiase Jr. and Maurice later on. You'll know Conor O'Brien more as Conor from the Ascension. But Richie, what are your thoughts about Conor O'Brien?
I mean, I vaguely I remember Conor O'Brien because they always made fun because he's a rat. He looked like a rat. They call him like Rat Face or something. But yeah, I mean, I liked him when he was in Ascension. I think it's cool. I don't know if he's there now, but he was in TNA as Con, just doing stuff with Cody Dean and whatnot. But that was a little while ago. He might not be there now. I don't think he is there. But yeah, and I see him on clips of him in Florida shows all the time because I think JPO books him sometimes. He's I mean, I don't mind him. I think initially he was going to get signed. He was going to come in with his wife. Her name was Chrissy Vane. I think she was a wrestler at the time, but that didn't sort of work out. But yeah, I think he was probably better suited for as a tag team. And yeah, the way they treated the Ascension on the main roster is ridiculous because they were awesome in NXT. Like when they actually were NXT, like they were a great tag team. So, but yeah, like Connor himself, I think some people are better in a tag team, and I think he's one of the people.
Yeah. And once again, speaking about that, I promise I'm not sponsored by 2K25. But it's just funny, like the WWE games are being really meta because that's literally the plot of this My Rise, where it's like they started NXT mutiny because people get drafted up to the main roster and then get raced. That's basically the main plot of this My Rise, which I think is funny. They're being a little bit meta with it as well.
It's almost a shot at Vince McMahon.
A little bit, yeah. And yeah, I don't really have much memory of like Conor Rod in the NXT days. I think he had more after rewatching this season, he definitely had more personality when he became Conor and part of the Ascension and all of that. That's when his character shined more. And in this, Alberto Del Rio and Ted DiBiase, like, but as his pros, like, it made no sense.
Yeah.
But moving on to someone I completely forgot was a wrestler on NXT, and that's Byron Saxton. Whose pro started off being Chris Masters and then became Dolph Ziggler. But it's one of those ones like he was fine. Like he really wasn't that good of a wrestler on NXT. But his personality I think was a lot of fun, and he's still in that, like he's still there now. He's still an announcer. For whatever reason, they still keep him on the commentary booth in the WWE game.
A game with Corey Graves. I'm like, why isn't Pat McAfee way better in here?
Why don't they update the comedy teams at all? So, but that being said, Jacob, what are your thoughts about Byron Saxton?
Like I know he's persona non grata for a lot of reasons, but Adam Blampier, he made a list a long time ago for what culture about commentary habits, and he described Byron Saxton as the Woody doll from Toy Story with his 3 programmed phrases of "Oh my God," psychology, and lamely clapping back at Corey Graves. And I have never been able to not think about that whenever I think of Byron Saxton. So it's a shame. It seems like he's a nice guy, but like I'm with Richie. It's like, why is he still there when like Pat McAfee, and I know not everyone likes him. I like him. He at least brings energy. Like, what is Byron Saxton still doing there? I don't know. He just kind of doesn't do much for me.
Yeah, he mainly just appeared like randomly as a backstage segment. It's mostly like Kathy Kelly and Jackie Redmond that does most of the interviews these days. But Byron Saxton just sort of pops up every now and then. But Richie, any thoughts about Byron Saxton?
Yeah, I mean, he's a better like. There was like I think there was one point in time where like he was used as someone was sick and he was used as a ring announcer. He's good at ring announcing. They should just been using him as a ring announcer. As a commentator, he's there. As a wrestler, he wasn't good. He has the worst finishing move of anybody. I don't even know what you call it. It is the worst convoluted hooking finishing move I've ever seen in my life. It's like a Russian leg sweep. But it's like it's weird. It's like almost like a skull crushing finale, but it's the dumbest thing. It often makes lists of worst finishing moves because I think there's probably a reason why he quickly transitioned to commentary from wrestling. He wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't. I think that the ceiling was low for him as far as wrestling goes. I think he made the right move going to. Doing more broadcasting. Didn't think much of him as a wrestler, but as I think he plays. But like I think he has his role in WWE is like as I mean, as a backstage interviewer, because I think he's a bit of a dweeb, like Coach was back in the day, or if you use him as a ring announcer, because talking Lillian Garcia announcer, she's not doing it full time anymore, so maybe you put him in that role. I don't know.
Yeah. But moving on to the next one. Before he was EC3, he was Derek Bateman. um, and his pro was Daniel Bryan, making his.
They were great together. This was fun.
Oh yeah, I think this period was great together. Like especially when it was when they were doing the whole like Daniel was like, if you get eliminated, I'm going to slap you. And which ultimately happened, but but this was great, and as well as ones like he was fun. I think he was better when he became EC3. But I didn't hate Derek Bateman at all though. I think it was a fun gimmick. But Jacob, what are your thoughts about Derek Bateman?
I remember when he was in when NXT got rebranded to what it is now, like at Full Sail. He was there for a few of the first tapings of that before he got released. And I was thinking to myself, this guy could be something. And then he would turn out to be something, like that awkward moment when TNA booked someone better than WWE twice. But I digress. I feel like there was a lot of wasted potential there. And I feel like that's my whole sentiment on EC3.
And Richie, what are your thoughts about Derek Bateman?
Yeah, I mean, I thought he had potential. He was entertaining. Yeah, he would sort of level up a bit as EC3. And this, I have my opinions on him. It's like freaking his kind of psychological. I think he's a bit of a. I don't know. His whole foray to control your narrative is a bit fucking weird. I think that his mind's a bit weird. Sometimes. I I'll cut out. God damn it. Am I back? Sorry.
Yeah.
May am I here?
Yes.
Yeah. And now it's
All right. Yeah. All right. So, yeah. I think his mindset's a bit weird sometimes, but I've always liked Derek Bateman. I mean, I've liked the Derek Bateman character. I liked that there was a segment where they had to guess what the person was writing on a board when they were doing promos and stuff, and they were just it was making no sense, but he knew what he was going to write. It's like, what do you think about this before? What do you think about your opponent? I think he's going to be Tulsa, Oklahoma. That was really funny. But yeah, they're really fun together, and I liked his inclusion here, and yeah, and their chemistry.
yeah. But moving on, before he was the Funkasaurus, he was just plain Brodus Clay. Jacob, what are your thoughts about Brodus Clay?
He was certainly something, all right. Crazy to think he would become NWA champion in a decade. But anyway, I feel like they would have done something with him, like as heavy for Del Rio, and then he was the Funkasaurus, which was certainly a choice. It seems like he is a nice guy. I know not a ton of people like his politics. I'm not going to wade into those waters, but just it seems like when he was in wrestling, there wasn't anyone that hated him. But I don't know. I just feel like they could have done something with him, but then all anyone's going to remember in the wrestling world is this. And that's his legacy.
Richie, what are your thoughts about Brodus Clay?
It is interesting that we talk about Brodus Clay after EC3 because they tagged together. That they were tagged together in TNA.
They were, yeah.
Yeah, then yeah, they were kind of. And they went together in NWA as well. The greatest NWA champion of the Billy Corgan era. No, probably. I mean, better than NWA was in better shape when he was champion than they are now. I'll say that. But yeah, look, I don't know. Brodus Clay had something. I'll say he wasn't like a great wrestler. He had something. Yeah, it's weird that they pivoted from like him being a monster to him being doing the whole the cliche big man dancer gimmick almost immediately. It's like, yeah, I'm like I wouldn't have mind seeing him like as a sort of monster heel, but they changed their mind. So yeah, look, I don't know, he's definitely had some of the not great matches in the last couple of years before he retired, but like I can't deny like when he was Funk Stars, like something was I like seeing him. I like seeing him on TV. So yeah, I didn't. I was entertained by him. So yeah.
Like I was in like I like Brodus Clay, and I think Brodus Clay got more time to shine when he had a switch of his pro when Alberto Del Rio became his pro. It was like I think it gave kind of more of a interesting dynamic because like Ricardo Rodriguez just didn't like Brodus Clay. It was like would do everything to try and get rid of him. And I think Robert Rodriguez ended up having a match against Brodus Clay at one point. But yeah, then moving on to the winner of this season, which was Johnny Curtis, whose pro was Truth. And I actually forgot to mention this at the start. Like, the prize for this one was yeah, it was a tag team title shot.
Did they ever get it though?
I was getting there. But yeah, so Johnny Curtis won, but then R-Truth turned heel, so they never invoked their title shot for the titles. And then Johnny Curtis eventually re-debuted and challenged for the titles against Team Hell No. I think he was paired with Michael McGillicuddy in that match, and then they lost, and then, yeah. But Johnny Curtis sort of went on to become Fandango, just ended up sort of once again, another one of the NXT guys who kind of got stuck in a gimmick that more people remember than his actual stuff in the original NXT. But I'm not gonna lie, I like Johnny Curtis as Fandango, like, and now he's like in TNA as Duty JC. Is it JC3 or Duty Dango? Is like
It was like JCB or
JTC.
JTC.
JDC.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So many wrestlers have actually.
Yeah, Johnny Danko Curtis.
Yeah. I'll try and remember what he was when he re-debuted on NXT a month or so ago. But yeah, I kind of did like Johnny Curtis in NXT though. I thought he was definitely good. Like this is probably the one season that really wasn't anyone was a really big standout and had as having a really good career. A lot of these people just sort of went on to do stuff and then forgotten about as well. But Jake, what are your thoughts about Johnny Curtis?
He was always okay to me. I mean, out of this cast, it's strange that he was the one that won. But I guess they just didn't care. So it was like, yeah, give it to Johnny Curtis. Why not? Out of all the winners, I think he is the weakest.
Yeah, I agree there. Richie, what are your thoughts about Johnny Curtis?
Yeah, I like Johnny Curtis. I think he had some charisma there, and yeah, I think my favorite kind of iteration of, time period of Johnny Curtis Fandango's career is when he was with Tyler Breeze or Breezango. I think it's very funny, got great comedic timing. Also, when he first turned heel in TNA, he's really funny. I think he was like, he was had a manager named like Johnny Bravo, and he was just like, yeah, I got this dude's a veteran. He's like, yeah, have you been to Nam? He's like, yeah, I've been on holiday there a couple of times. This guy's been to Nam. But yeah, no, I think he's really entertaining. Yeah, before the even Fandango gimmick, like when they tried to bring him up, he had a really stupid gimmick where he would like say these common phrases, but then like literally he'd be like, I won't cry over spilt milk, and then he'd like pour milk over his head, or he'd be like, I got a chip on my shoulder, and I'm like, this isn't, and as predicted, it went nowhere because that's a dumb gimmick. But yeah, so yeah, while I thought, on paper you think, oh, that boring dancing gimmick's not going to work, and he probably shouldn't have beaten Jericho. I felt bad for Jericho having to, let me go take the pin at WrestleMania, but hey, he's sort of like Heath Slater in a way. He makes the most of what he's given, and I think the dude's entertaining. So yeah.
Yeah, but that was his report. I'm just going to talk briefly about these. I know I was only going to hut into depth of those four, but I'll talk briefly about this. Then we're going to move into NXT Redemption, which is the longest season because that it started off as a reality TV show. Then around the middle they must have decided, you know what, we'll change it. We'll just make it to this thing. There was no winner. But we had pairings like Jacob Novak was paired with JTG, Byron Saxton was paired with Yoshitatsu, Lucky Cannon was paired with Tyson Kidd, Connor O'Brien was paired with Vladimir Kozlov, Titus Neal was paired with Hornswoggle, Darren Young started off being paired with Chavo Guerrero, then he became paired with JTG, and then Derek Bateman turned up at some stage in that season paired with Daniel Bryan, but then we had no eliminations in the first 10 weeks. The combination format was gradually forgotten about. The pros stopped to appear, and then it eventually morphed into. But it's one of those ones like, and then Derek Bateman was the sole rookie left, wasn't declared as the winner. And then the prize of this one was just simply, you win a spot in season 6 alongside a player of your choice. You don't get on the main roster, you just get on the next season.
Which never happened.
Which never happened. But I put it on the thumbnail. There was some promo images of the of who was going to appear on this season. For season 6, you would have had people like Seth Rollins, Big E, Damian Sandow, Hunico, Leo Kruger, who is Adam Rose, and Bo Dallas. That is who you would have had on season 6.
So basically, the roster for the first few weeks of NXT, what we know today.
Yeah, pretty much. But so Jacob, like, any thoughts on sort of NXT in general that you want to throw out there to close off?
I remember watching the first couple seasons of NXT and not really caring for it, and then I stopped watching wrestling, and then I came back to it about 2013, 14, and I had always heard, and I kept hearing that NXT got really good again, and I'm like, yeah, I'll believe it until I see it. And then I saw NXT Arrival, which I believe, Malcolm, we did a spear from the past on. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that show was awesome, and I've kept up with NXT up to this day. So if my love of movies has shown me anything, it's that reboots tend to not be very good. However, this is one reboot that really worked. Like, it basically got rid of the reality BS, and it just made it just a wrestling show wrapped up in a developmental package. That's all it needed to be. It didn't need to be anything beyond that. And even it had its struggles. NXT 2.0, anyone, it still is consistently entertaining, and it's churned out quite a few stars. So it took a while, but it ultimately worked out.
And Richie, do you have any final thoughts on NXT?
Yeah, not much more to add. I mean, I think the actual concept of NXT, if you can believe, I think maybe it came from like Shane McMahon, because like Shane McMahon, like I think initially had the idea before when they made they were going to ECW and Sci-Fi. They wanted that to be like an NXT thing, and then they went with the ECW idea. But they had sort of a semblance of that there, where they had like the New Talent Initiative, where people like you still see people here today, like the North American the North American champion Sean Spears was on there. He's been around for a while, and then people like Ricky Ortiz, if you remember him, DJ Gabriel.
Rally up. I remember Ricky Ortiz.
Yeah. The husband of Layla. Yeah.
True. Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, and then this NXT, and it's like look, I don't mind like it's a reality game show thing, but yeah, it's just like I don't know. By season 3, you're like, well, if you're telling the audience, you're telling me that this show's shit, why should I care? And so season 4, I didn't watch the whole thing. I just I would keep tabs and pop in here and there. And then by season 5, I was just like, I'm done. Okay, especially when I bet it became apparent that like this wasn't going to end, and they didn't know what they were going to do. And then it wasn't until like afterwards, and like I think after like maybe the first takeover, I was like, oh no, it's really really good. Then it sort of became a point of viewing. I'm like, oh okay, shit, this is just another brand now. So I'm like, this is what NXT should have been probably the whole time, kind of, yeah. But yeah, so I don't know. It's a good time capsule in history, I guess. For it's sort of its kind of humbling beginnings to what it is now. And yeah, NXT 2.0 was great because it was just like, from if you believe what the thing, Vince potentially was pissed that they didn't beat AEW in the ratings that day. So like, oh, we're taking NXT off you, but yeah. And now, I mean, it's interesting. Only a couple of years ago, now they beat them in the ratings all the time. But yeah, I know it's cool. I think it's in a good spot where it's like a marriage between both NXT 2.0 and NXT. It's not quite, black, quite, black and gold, but it's a good marriage of the two, and it's a good show. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm similar to you, Richie. Like, I remember watching this sort of like when it started. I think I made it all the way through to the end of season 4. When it first happens, then I was watching it like, is this ever going to end? But it's one of those ones like because I actually never watched like NXT regularly until we can now watch it regularly on Netflix. Like I'd check in with pay per views every now and then, like when I saw them on the net on WWE Network. I was like, I wasn't really regularly, but now I'm sort of like regularly invested in it. I think it is like it's really good now, and it's one of those ones where honestly I kind of wish that they treat NXT a little bit better and actually like have like an NXT championship match like Mania or something, treat it like a third brand as opposed to so at the moment like it seems to be like mostly Raw and SmackDown with NXT sort of being this middle ground, which I think is fine. I mean, some weeks I'd argue NXT is better than what's shown on SmackDown.
Yeah. They've done that once, but it was when no people were there. It was Charlotte and Rhea.
Yeah, well, about like say like that was when Charlotte won the Rumble. Was like they were like, and I'll cash in on NXT Championship, but it's one of those ones. Like, I honestly wish they would do something like it again, but it is what it is. What it is. But but it's one of those ones like sometimes it's fun to go back and see something at the beginning, see how things evolved, and sort of like, and that's why I kind of like to rewatch this when I did. Because like I actually started rewatching NXT like last year as one of the sort of last things I was going to watch on the WWE Network before it was like becoming put over here. But yeah, it's fun. Like it was entertaining, and some of the challenges I thought were good. Like whenever they do trivia, especially when it was like in the Divas one, where it was like, guess these theme songs, and like AJ Lee was just running away with that like
Yeah, because she was an actual wrestling fan. Who,
yeah,
like,
it's like I think there was even times the match where it was like, let the other people answer something.
yeah.
Because I think they did another trivia thing where it was like Alex Riley and Caval or something as well doing some answering trivia as well. Where Caval was just running away with it, but Jacob, where can people find you online?
My YouTube channel at RyanCam20, I talk primarily movies on there, but I do talk wrestling sometimes. I'm involved in a lot of trivia spaces. Small Talk, the Smallville podcast I have, Talking Silence, David Lynch Project ongoing, Best Picture Month. I got a lot of stuff going, a lot of stuff cooking, so if you have not checked me out, please do.
Richie, where can people find you online?
Yeah, you can find me, I think it's tomorrow, right? Rankin.
Yeah.
Best action movies of the 2020s, so that should be fun. And yeah, and then you tournament fights tier rank Wheeler movies, and be happy to know. Austin was happy because this week, this coming week, we're doing Aliens. Spun it the first time, we got Aliens. So, and then Lonely Marks, we'll be we'll obviously discussing the news, doing the fantasy draft updates, and also doing a draft of all the former United States champions. So that covers a lot of people. And then I pop up on ASAT and JPO's channel and Why We Love Horror and all that. So you can check me out there. And yeah.
And yeah, you can find me on Rankin on Tape Productions. We do action movies of the 2020s tomorrow. And you can also find me on my own personal channel, Middle Earth Media, as I host Speak from the Past each week. The next regular episode is going to be on No Mercy 2017. I actually haven't got a guest for that yet. It may not be this week or maybe the week after now, but it is what it is. So that it should be that's an interesting pay-per-view to go back and revisit. And yeah, I pop up here and there all over the place. And so yeah, but that's what I was going to finish off saying. Like, I may not do a special episode every month. This is just something that I thought of at the time. I'm thinking of maybe doing a special episode on the mixed match challenge. That was a thing. It may not always be a started discussion thing like this. I may do a random tier rank, and I'll maybe do like a John Cena matches or something, or do a tournament fights or something. It's just something extra that's not talking about pay per view, so just an excuse to talk about more wrestling. That's pretty much what I decided doing these. But with that, this is the end. So with that, we'll see you next time.